Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be talking again about that very active pattern we have going on. A lot of smaller snow chances, but also a lot of large snow chances. And as we get further on into the long range, it's looking like we could be looking at some larger systems, as right now we have some smaller storms going on. And the cold air, of course, will be very dominant. So a lot of stuff to go over. And if you guys would like to support this channel, if you like these videos, you can do so by subscribing and liking the video. Hitting the thumbs up button helps out a lot. Otherwise, let's get into this video and start talking about this very active snowstorm pattern. Okay, so the first thing I want to start off is by looking at the radar. Notice that there's a large area of just gray colors, if you will. That is indicative of some very, very light snowfall. But notice we do have some of these green shades, especially towards the south and a band across northern Illinois into Indiana, Michigan, and Iowa. In those areas, the snow is falling pretty heavily. Notice that it's just beginning to formulate right here, pushing into Indiana, some snow, and there are, these storms are hard to predict. For example, this band of snow, if it sets up for a while across Chicago, could drop, several more inches than expected. Versus further to the south, there may be not that much, right? Maybe an inch. So, just to show you how strong this band of snow is, let's take a look at the Chicago webcam. Notice the snow is very, very fluffy. It's dry. You can see that it's just these flakes kind of floating around. This camera is moving around. It's not really my doing, but it's coming down, especially if you zoom in. Very large flakes. This is obviously a high snowfall ratio. These just pile up on top of each other like feathers. Not like sleet where, it takes a lot to get an inch. An inch will not take much of falling snow here. And in terms of the radar data, this is kind of a bit more visual in terms of the intensities. Notice also some pretty darn heavy snow starting to occur across Illinois into Indiana and into portions of Ohio. Notice we do have snow all across northern Illinois, especially in that band. If areas get stuck under this, overperformance is almost guaranteed, while areas to the south or north may, get kind of missed out. But again, the exact tracking and what will happen next with this band is a bit hard to see what will happen, and it's almost unpredictable at this point, to be honest. Obviously, it will shift off to the north and east, but where it will develop to this for the strength is a bit of an interesting cue. I do want to show you that this development of this snow to the south has been rather recent. So let's just go back to right now. I'm at 3:45 updated, and let's just set to current time as we are 10 minutes out of date here. Notice, right, if we take this 2 hours back, this was very much smaller, and up to the north was much more disorganized, more of a light snow event, and this is what it was 3 hours ago. Now, putting it forward, you can see it has definitely exploded here. A heavy snowband has set up. Right now, I'm looking outside my window, and we are getting, again, those large feather-like flakes that you saw on the Earth cam, so definitely a pleasant view to look at. Okay, radar wise, in terms of advisories, warnings, notice obviously wind chill advisories to the north, right? Very, very cold air, but the coldest of it, again, this is still very cold air, but dangerous cold air is just limited to the northern extreme counties of the US. But notice, this is just something folks don't want to see. 55 below in terms of wind chill. Fahrenheit, up here again, pretty much similar. Negative 40 Celsius and negative 40 Fahrenheit are the exact equivalent. So pretty much the same type of intensity of cold air. Notice we do have advisories and winter storm watches for much of Kentucky. Now, these watches are from late Tuesday night into Thursday afternoon, so not for today's system, but they are saying that icing and some snow is possible. Further to the north, right here, again, this is regarding today's system, and up to the north here as well. Look at that. In Pennsylvania, 2 to 4 inches. Let's just quickly go through Ohio, Cincinnati, right there, 2 to 4 inches. Again, pretty consistent. And again, if this overperforms, 2 to 5, 6 inches is not out of the question, especially further towards the northeast, where you can see they are indicating towards a higher amountage. New York City will get some snow, but the higher amounts will remain just to the north. And notice that into Missouri, for example, they do have a winter weather advisory till Tuesday, 6 a.m. Some light snow and maybe a bit of ice. Freezing drizzle is also a concern. Up to the north regarding the Chicago area, you can see that they are saying 1 to 3 inches with localized in excess of up to 3, especially where that heavy snow band is setting up. And even into Iowa, you can see that this is the winter weather chill advisory. And the wind chill advisory does show that snowfall threat being there, not as much there, up to 1 inch, right? So that's what we have there. Obviously, very, very cold there, and some advisories across the mountains again for 6 to 12 inches. You can see how the standards of an advisory shifted there. Okay, let's go back to the models and start tracking this out. GFS radar. So, or GFS model. So this one is far outgoing model. It's generally an accurate model, I would say. It isn't that bad, but really what it shows is usually a bit overdone or underdone or a bit skewed. That's why we have to look at a lot of models. So notice that with this GFS, this is today's system. Notice it portrays the snow nicely across northern Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, getting into northwestern Ohio. And then we have that southern flank of that system right there, which again, it is developing a bit ahead of time, as this is what it shows as of midnight, right? And this is what it has as of 6 p.m. It is 4 p.m. and this is already way more developed than what we have right now across the United States. Now let me just take these advisories off, as that's kind of a headache. I just wanted to show you them briefly. Notice that this is already pretty well developed. Some pretty heavy snowfall rates are occurring among those little showers, and overall just a moderate snow in between those heavy showers. And the GFS does show that just a bit maybe delayed. Maybe the system is a bit quicker, or it's just simply going to overperform, which again, it's not going to be an entire widespread overperformer, but there will be definitely few locations like, say, the Chicago area that pick up more snow, and then maybe southern Indiana, southern Illinois that pick up a bit more, and then central Illinois that pick up a bit less, as that band didn't really set up across those areas. Notice this moves into the northeast. Again, you can see New York City picks up on a bit of rain, some sleet, some freezing rain potentially. But mainly north, it should be snow. You can see New York, right? Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Boston, New Hampshire, Vermont. Not a big event, but the ratios will be pretty high, especially as you get towards upstate areas, and that passes through. Regarding the total snowfall, the GFS, I don't like to look at the total snowfall when it's system so not far out. But you can see it does show those 4 or 5 inch amounts for Cincinnati, southern Ohio, southern Indiana, maybe into extreme northern Kentucky, say like Louisville, and then into Pennsylvania, not really affecting Philadelphia according to this model. But again, that rain snow line may be a bit harder to predict. But even if it does rain, you're not missing out on a huge amount if you live across further south. As you know, this is going to be a 1 to 3 inch event. Okay, that is just through Tuesday, or late Tuesday into early Wednesday. Let's see what comes next. Right after that band puts away, here we have another band. Again, the exact orientation of this probably won't be certain up until even the day of the system. For example, yesterday I was looking at what the models were predicting for this band to look like, and it really wasn't similar to what they're showing here, or what the radar ended up being like. So again, there's a lot of uncertainty with these predictions of these bands and these small scale events. We'll just have to keep an eye on them and see how they progress. Large snowfall amounts out of these systems aren't likely, but they are possible if, say, a band sets up for a very long time, which today may be the case across northern Illinois. Notice that Indiana, Ohio, this band has a bit more of snow with it and a bit more precipitation kind of forcing, and this is why they have that winter storm watch for Kentucky. Mainly the icing threat, freezing rain. It will be falling as rain, but will be freezing on contact. Southern Indiana, southern Illinois, St. Louis picking up on some snow, Indianapolis, Columbus, into portions of northern West Virginia, Philadelphia, New York, and then it moves off kind of. Some models make this a bit of a bigger storm. The GFS keeps it on a weaker side. It is still a bit far out. I mean, it's not ridiculously far out, but 60 to 80 hours is still within the range of a lot of uncertainty. And notice that that pushes out and we see a break. Not for long. We see a high a polar vortex, a high pressure kind of start taking charge. So we again see that lake effect go off. But what we start seeing is for the folks in the Northwest, I've been getting questions. There will be a large system moving in on Thursday and Friday. Now, this could drop some snow even to the lower elevations. Portland, maybe a bit of ice and snow. I'm saying the potential is there. The mountains are extremely hard to predict, especially the lower elevations, the valleys. So for that, always direct yourself towards the National Weather Service. But I'm letting you know that the Thursday into Friday time frame will be messy and slick, either in the form of rain, ice, or snow. And this moves on, right? A lot of precipitation. And look, we have a very significant potential storm setting up across the weekend. So less than a week out, and this is already our third system. Again, some light snow still potentially across the Northeast, just kind of lingering. And look at that, we see a very, very large system move out. Now, this is just one model. The GFS shows something like this. Most models show a snowstorm. just a bit of a different orientation for each one of them. And this seems to be the trend. Right now, for now, we get these little small ones, these little small clippers, and then we start seeing, because of this high pressure, it digs this polar vortex, it digs this precipitation, it shoves it very close to the Gulf Coast, and because of that, we get more stronger systems, as it has more moisture available to suck up. And right after this storm, it's not done. We see another potential right there. The GFS keeps this one weaker. Not all models do the same. Look at that one, potentially further to the south. I know I have a lot of folks from the southern United States wanting to see a snowstorm, and while not all locations in the south will see snow, all it takes is one of these storm systems to track a bit further to the south or the north. I mean, look at that. Potentially snow across maybe South Carolina, North Carolina. Potential is there around this time frame. The GFS doesn't advertise a massive system. I mean, but the coastal areas could pick up decent snow. And it doesn't end there. Notice we see continued light snow. Maybe, again, a system across, say, centered across Virginia, the D.C. area, West Virginia. And then a large system that is more centered across the upper plains, which is very far out and very unconfident about, but for now, it's these systems. Look at that one. Could drop snow into Arkansas. Lots of ice, sleet into Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, right? Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio. If this were to form, obviously this would be a monster storm, because of, or maybe I shouldn't say monster, because the precip is relatively heavy, but just the impacts. I mean, look at that. There's every single color on this map. Potentially some severe weather, ice, rain, and some snow. Potentially some heavy snow. So, because of that, we could assume that the GFS is showing an active pattern, obviously. And I will quickly just show you these models and show you what they're running through. A lot of them are showing the same. Here's our first system for today, right? Notice there's that band, there's that southern flank of the system moving across the northeast. Bit of lake effect off the lakes, especially off Superior and Huron and Ontario. A bit off of Erie and Michigan as well, possible. Notice, not far out, Wednesday into Thursday, we get our next system. Look at that. Across Illinois, Indiana, Missouri. Again, the exact orientation of the heavy snow here. Heavy. It won't be that heavy, but 4 to 5 inches is possible. The exact axis of the heaviest precipitation will be a bit hard to figure out at this time, but in this vicinity, expect snow, light snow, 1 to 4 inches, I would say, is a pretty good range. And it's a large range, but unfortunately, that's what we have for now. As it gets to the northeast, some models have this intensifying across New Jersey and Delaware and Maryland, and that could drop a bit more snow, obviously. And you can see that the Canadian doesn't advertise a strong system, but it does bring some snow in there. Does bring snow into Virginia at around the Friday time frame. And look at that right there. We have a giant polar vortex moving in, and what this does is obviously help this precipitation stay a bit further to the south. And the GFS really advertised that, right? Notice that the Canadian does try bringing in this polar vortex, and it does show a system of some kind. And look at that. Eventually it does start showing rain, ice, sleet, freezing rain, and snow across the south, far south into the coastal areas. Look at that, into Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. You know, the chance is there, the threat is there. The cold air is going to be plentiful for at least this time of the year. While it is late, you know, it won't stick around for long, the snow that does fall more than a few days, but at least it will fall potentially. Obviously, if that storm system were to occur. Total snowfall with the Canadian, you could see favoring obviously to the north, but it's not ignoring completely the threat of snow further to the south, especially if you get 1 or 2 systems that set up there. GFS model, I didn't show you this snowfall amount for this model. Well, this is actually the newest model run of the GFS. The older one, which I went through all of it, and that's the one that I wanted to go through because it was fully through. You can see shows further amounts to the south. It's a bit of a messy graph, but that's what it shows. Let's see, not including sleet. Let's do a positive snow depth change. This is what it shows. Pretty good amounts, even the coastal areas potentially. We'll have to see. Maybe not that far south, but it's definitely not impossible, right? It's not likely, but it's not impossible. Further north you go into northern Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, the chances obviously increase, and we'll just have to keep an eye on that. I did quickly want to go back to the GFS and take a look at the newest model. And this one's only 120 hours out, but let's see. Just this is recent data. I mean, it's the newest data we have here, so you're seeing this for the first time with me. Again, similar system, right? It does show decent amounts of snow potentially for the northeast. There's our Thursday, Wednesday system, keeping it south of, say, northern Illinois, Des Moines, Milwaukee. But again, all it takes is one of these little kind of birds to come through and drop an inch or two. It could be a few hundredths of liquid precipitation that amounts in 1 or 2 inches because of the snowfall ratios. So not a lot of energy is necessary for a lot of snow potentially. So overperforming is probable. Notice what the GFS does around the 66-hour mark. It shows the snow here, the ice, right? But it doesn't really dissolve it completely, and it brings it back to the north into Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, further to the north. And we see that large system moving off to the northwest, drop snow across the mountains, almost intensify in the mountains, which usually doesn't happen. But look at that. It doesn't really lose its millibars. 1005, it actually drops a few millibars. And then look at that. It evolves into a beast. Again, far out, we'll have to see. This is a significant potential. Okay, that is using those models. Quickly, let me show you the European model regarding what it has to say. I've been showing you a lot of models already. Let me go through this. Again, here's our first system. Definitely some heavy amounts are possible across the Northeast, even with this little one. Don't let these little events go under radar because, as you saw, Chicago wasn't expecting much today, but they got, blessed, if you will, with some pretty good snowfall. Notice that here's our first system again. Here is our Wednesday into Thursday system according to the European. Widespread snow into the mid-Atlantic. Some snow right there, potentially heavy into West Virginia if that sets up. And look at that. The European does bring some decent snow into Washington, really centering across West Virginia, Northern Virginia. And then it moves it off. And then obviously the European is very on track with the other models that it brings in that large northwest system into Thursday and Friday. And look at that. It does definitely make the orientation of the system a bit different. You could see way further to the east before it develops into something big, but that does bring snow to, say, the coastal areas as well. And then look at that. More snow across the south. Ice, freezing rain. Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, snow, Arkansas, snow. This is just one model simulation, but you can see that the chances are definitely there in terms of total snowfall. Assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which will be underplaying a lot of the amounts to the north by a significant margin, this is what it shows. Again, if this were to fall at a higher ratio, this could be easily doubled or tripled with the cold air, especially to the north. Not necessarily the coastal areas or in the south, as the ratio will be more appropriate, 10-to-1. That is that with these models. I want to show you the RDPS, which I think is the best high-res model that goes out to like a medium range. Notice what it shows with the Wednesday system, with the Monday, Tuesday system across the Northeast. Some amounts across southern New York, Northeast Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, the tri-state kind of connection. 7-6 inches, I wouldn't say that's impossible. I noticed into Boston, 3 inches. New York City, the northern locations, 4 to 3 inches. And look at that, across Indiana today into tonight. Decent amounts of snow, which again I would say is not unlikely, especially by looking at the radar, which we are looking at some decent snow already developing. All right, going back to the RDPS, notice what we have going on is a break in systems between that Tuesday time frame, I guess, Tuesday night. Look at that. Wednesday morning, we start seeing more snow develop into the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and you can see that some of the snow gets pretty heavy even further towards the north, according to this model. So you can see North Dakota, Minnesota, potentially some snowfall amounts. The HER model is a very, very high-res model, which, again, I like using it because it goes out, not far out, but it does a very good job with the kind of like the more detailed information. Notice this is today, Monday, right? We have that band of snow developing. You can see that HER model is not showing that band of snow whatsoever across Chicago. So even these models struggle with these type of events, and that makes sense, and the National Weather Service warned of that. Notice that as we push this through the night, we see a very heavy snow band develop across Indiana, Ohio. From what I'm seeing, it would not be hard to see these amounts push into the over 6-inch range, and I honestly would not be surprised whatsoever. And if that trend may continue into the Northeast as we see a lot of that precip kind of intensify. Maybe not necessarily for New York City or Philadelphia, but just to the north, you could see some pretty heavy amounts. But even the cities themselves could pick up an inch or two. Maybe not Philadelphia or anywhere south, but New York City and upwards, I would say. Even Long Island, potentially. Notice that pushes off, right? But the HER model takes a bit of a break, right? There will be a bit of a break between these systems. But not long, and we start seeing more precipitation starting to brew up here, which is probably, again, underdone by the HER. So, regarding the HER model accumulations for this first system across the Northeast, right, that's what it shows through Wednesday. You can see not bad amounts. New York City just to the north seeing some pretty good amounts. This could still shift a bit further south or north. Indiana, Ohio, 4 to 3 inches, not bad. Again, probably underdone across northern Illinois, especially since we have that pretty heavy snow band setting up. So that is the HER model and some of the high res and the long range models. I do want to quickly take a look at what the model viewers are in terms of the ensembles. Well, first, actually, this is what the National Weather Service thinks will fall. It's kind of put into a model layout, which is available on this website, weathermodels.com. It's a great website, but you have to pay a few bucks for it. This is how much snow they think will fall through Wednesday, before that second system. Notice that they are accounting a bit of snow for that heavy snow band that's set up across the Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa area. A bit of light snow elsewhere as well. Indiana, central Illinois. Look at that though. The South, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, southern Ohio, not bad amounts. Cincinnati could see 3 to 4 inches out of this easily. In my opinion, I think that's very doable. And as we push this forward, you could see this keeps adding on as we start seeing that second system start to develop, which only goes out to 66 hours with this National Weather Service forecast of snow. But not bad even for Philadelphia, 3 to 4 inches with that second one starting to develop. And definitely these amounts could quickly increase. I do want to show you the latest or one previous, because you can see these come out every hour. They get updated every hour, and you can see it hasn't remained changed by that much. They do change it every 6 hours if they do make any changes. So at 8:12, you could see that model run from today at noon showed a bit less snow here, but that's probably some sort of glitch. They probably just didn't account for these offices here as they cut it off, but generally the same story. Light to moderate snow with some heavier pockets. Now, regarding the heavy, very large systems, I want to take a look at the CFS because, as I mentioned, smaller systems for now. This is a very long range model, by the way. It's usually inaccurate, but it could show us some details that maybe are hard to notice with other models. So notice right now we have these little smaller systems, right? Generally west to east. You could see Thursday. But this is what I think will start happening. These systems that will start combining with energy from the south and will be going from north to northeast. Now, again, based on the track, that is where the heaviest snow will fall, but this could either mean very good news for even the Ohio Valley, the south for some snow, but even the coastal areas if these storms take more of a coastal track. You could see that this model doesn't favor that. It shows systems further inland. But if some of these take a bit further out, this snow could, appear on the coastal areas, which some of the earlier model runs of this model did show. Again, in terms of storm track accuracy, this model is rather sad, but it's still good to look at the general trend. Obviously, a warming pattern because we're heading into spring, but look at that. Even in potentially into late February, another nor'easter potentially. We have a system diving into the south right there into March potentially. And definitely interesting scenario. And more systems. Again, probably starting to favor the northern plains with that heavy snow as the jet stream is pretty much forced to move further to the north. I would still say, though, below average temperatures are favored into the long range. Not as much as what we're seeing right now, or at least the confidence isn't that high for this bitter of cold air in the longer range into March. But it seems like it will be more dominant for the central and eastern U.S., though this model definitely does show signs of warmth, especially into southern Canada, which may be a bit overdone. But honestly, I'm hoping that we start getting some warmth as some of this cold air is just getting a bit boring at this point. I know that this video is already pretty long, but I do want to show you the National Weather Service map of warnings and advisories. I did show you it on the radar, but this is a more clear view. Notice this is what we see. Again, here will probably be the heaviest amounts into tonight as we see those very heavy snow showers set up. Let's take a look at Petersburg, or just a bit to the east of Petersburg in Indiana. 1 to 3 inches tonight. That's definitely not a bad event. Notice that through the week we do have more chances. Let me click on a few more random locations. Let's click on Kansas City. Right now they're reporting light snow. Again, maybe a bit of snow tonight, but more of the cold air will be the bigger story for you. Again, depending on how those systems set up, we'll just have to wait and see. Notice the Northeast, for example, New York City is not under winter weather advisories, and then if you're to look at the forecast or official forecast, it's calling still for about 1 to 3 inches Tuesday, so not bad. Just again, heavier amounts probably to the north. And if we were to take a look at, say, let's just go at right there. What do we have? I don't even know. Pugsby. I don't even know how to read that. Pug Keepsy. I don't know. I'm really bad with names if you couldn't tell at this point. Notice 3 to 5, so much heavier snow. Still not a massive event, but an event nonetheless. Boston, you can see. Let's just take a look at these areas. not huge, but it's definitely there. And this is just from that first system. Obviously, the second one could drop a bit more. And into Kentucky, we have these watches for the fact of the ice threat. There will be a bit of snow today, but also the main threat is for potentially a large ice storm, or at least a significant one enough to issue winter storm warnings or watches. So you can see that some pretty good ice there. All right, that's basically it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Consider liking, consider subscribing. This pattern remains active. This is the latest radar as of 420, and you can see this is what it's evolving into. Very heavy stream of showers right there, continuing to develop. Light to moderate snow will probably be on and off throughout the afternoon across the northern areas. And other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya.